Kicking off the list at number 10, the discovery of penicillin. Sometimes miracles happen when nobody is looking. That's the key. Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin back in 1928. At the time, he was actually studying staphylococcus, which is a bacteria that causes infections and boils and all that nasty stuff. But right before Alexander left for a 2-week vacation, he left a petri dish with some of that staphylococcus behind. He left it on the lab table rather than stored away in an incubator. Now, during his well-needed time off, a penicillium mold spore just drifted in there magically, either through the window, up the lab stairwell, some Horton Hears a Who type commute, and the temperature of the room and lack of one Alexander Fleming allowed for the mold to fight back, furthermore preventing that bacteria from growing. He literally changed the world. He discovered this antibacterial substance, and it was only produced by the strains of penicillium. Thank you, or else we'd be a little uncomfortable. Number 9, mass extinction. Are we part of the 6th extinction? Is it happening right now all around us? Most likely. We lose thousands of species each year, and when looking in the past, asteroids and ice ages, sure, they have all something to do with massive extinction level events, of course, but after humans invented the wheel and then discovered fire, things started to change. We kind of caused a lot of bad stuff. In the 1800s, industrialization drove up extinction rates and continues to do so. According to Elizabeth Colbert, across the world, scientists every day are monitoring what could be the largest extinction event since the dinosaurs. That's us, since the dinosaurs. It's like dinosaurs, T-Rex, and then us, equally as bad. What do you know? Arms are a bit longer now, but still, we're up to no good. The way human beings interact with the environment and affect biodiversity could be more deadly than an asteroid hitting the Earth. That's pretty eye-opening. With an ever-climbing list of endangered species, Colbert and the world asked one question. Is it too late to change it? Like, are we screwed? Most likely, but we can do our best at this point. Okay, let's move on to something a bit lighter so we don't feel like complete trash. Sounds good, let's do it. Number 8, monkey business. Okay, this study done back in 2016, I had to include it because in a list of unsettling things, this definitely fits. This is the most unsettling thing I've ever heard in my life. And yeah, that includes finding out you're part of a mass extinction level event. This one's right beside it. You ever see Planet of the Apes? The voice acting, the motion capture, Andy Serkis, he kills it. All those dots on his face, really good. The voice, nails it. It's like Caesar, it's very deep. I can't even do it. If I did, I wouldn't be doing this. I'd be doing Planet of the Apes movies. Well, it turns out in real life, they would sound even scarier than that. Research done back in 2016 showed that macaques have a vocal tract capable of speaking. The lucky thing is they just don't have the brain power to do so, or else they would sound like this. Didn't hear it? Let's hear it again. Will you marry me? That's the scariest thing. Imagine a macaque saying that to you. I would politely say, no thank you. I'd be like, no, I'm good, man, thanks. Also, your voice is so deep. Is that laryngitis? What's that? Some vitamins. I was doing fine before I heard this, so I had to bring you down with me. You're welcome. Hit that thumbs up. And also, will you marry me? Number 7, human sacrifice. Archaeology is fascinating, but the digger we deep into the earth, the more we find out about our past. Most of the time, that's not so fun. Our past is pretty shady. Usually these findings are horrible. Not too long ago, we found the remains of a 3,000-year-old skeleton in Greece. They found the skeleton on the side of Mount Lycaon, which historians know as the site of animal sacrifice for Zeus. Ancient writers mention this site and how human sacrifice was also at play, and thanks to technology, we can now confirm that this is indeed the case, sadly. The upper part of the skull was missing, and the body was laid on 2 lines of stones, so it wasn't accidental. There were even stones laid on their pelvis, so something was going on. We look at Greece, of course, as the birthplace of philosophy, democracy, and 100-meter hurdles, and, you know, the 100-meter dash, all the Olympic stuff, that's great. But they also did some sacrificial, shady shit in their off time when they weren't slamming some Merlot. Science has allowed us to take a look all over the world as well, not just Greece. Ancient Egyptians, Aztecs, sometimes after Mayan ball games, sometimes the losing team would just be sacrificed. Yeah, good game, good game, good game, good game. Are we getting sacrificed? No, okay, good. Good game, good game, good game. Everyone talks about how awful humans are now. No, we were pretty bad always, even before we knew how to speak words or what the sun was or what the moon was. We're like, you know what? I don't know what any of this is, but all I do know is that we gotta kill each other. Number 6, whale cancer. The big C, oddly enough, doesn't affect big fish. What do you know? Well, we do know that the risk of cancer increases as you age, but the amount of cells that you have surely has something to do with it, right? So large animals like whales, obviously they have a few more cells laying around. They're a bit husky, they're a bit bigger. You would think that the odds of whales getting cancer would increase, but the reality of it is that whales and dolphins are way less susceptible to cancer than us humans. We still have no idea why. Maybe it's because whales sing a lot? I don't know, maybe if we sing to each other instead of talking and killing, we can maybe beat cancer. I don't know, worth a shot. Let's just start singing like whales. That's how we'll communicate from now on. We'll just go, and then someone else will be like, good, thank you. Number 5, MK Ultra. This one always gives me the chills. Many of you have probably heard of this at some point, but if not, well, buckle up. MKUltra was a secret CIA project that lasted from 1953 to 1973, where they ran hundreds of experiments to US citizens without them knowing, and they gave them LSD, narcotics, anything in attempts to crack mind control, or as they called it, information gathering. It's like when Apple's like, yeah, we're just gonna gather some info real quick. When we talk to Facebook, we're just gonna gather some information. They're spying, definitely. It's bad shit. In the 50s and 60s, around the Cold War, the United States believed that the Soviets, Chinese, and or the North Korean agents were using mind control. I mean, sure, how else could you explain brainwashed prisoners of war in Korea, right? That's gotta be the only explanation as to why they're acting that way. Nothing else to do with it. The program had subjects take LSD, hallucinogens, they had electric shock therapy at one point, horrible stuff and all, and it was being done in universities, hospitals, and prisons. The happenings of this project weren't fully known to the public until years after it ended, but the agency destroyed most MK documents back in 1973 when it ended, so we think we know, in reality, we probably know nothing, Jon Snow. Number 4, skin problems. This is a specific case that I had to share. A Russian lady found a small lump below her eye, her left eye to be specific, and at first she didn't think much of it, but eventually this lump was gone, which is a good sign, but then a new lump had appeared later on. This time it was on her lip. Odd. So when she went to go see a doctor about this lip problem, which is new and the eye problem's now gone, they removed a Dirofilaria repens, which is a thin worm, crawls around in the face. Hence why the bump was disappearing and then reappearing later on. It was moving around. I just got goosebumps talking about that. Now, normally this type of worm only affects animals, dogs, cats, foxes, anything like that. They spread through mosquito bites as well. So next time you're in the woods smacking your arms, I dare you to not think of this. Good game. Number 3, particle accelerator. This list is full of unsettling things. I mean, I hope. I think they're pretty batshit insane. But this next one actually concerns me about our future. I don't mess with science. The at-home volcano trick where you like put in the vinegar and it goes poof, I don't do that. That's even scary for me. What if one experiment could hypothetically swallow our known universe? Would we do it? Sure, sounds fun. Why not? What have we got to lose at this point? Sir Martin Rees, Britain's royal astronomer, shines some light on a dark possibility in his book titled On the Future. The particle accelerator is this massive machine that does exactly that. It smashes these charged particles together at a high speed, all in the name of science. We're trying to further understand condensed matter physics, and while it sure sounds impressive, what if it goes south? What would happen? Well, it could destroy the world, apparently. These particles smashing together could create this strange matter that shrinks Earth down to 300 feet in diameter. Or it creates a black hole, one of the two. A black hole would just suck away all of our existence, or we'd be little tiny people. Thanks, Martin. Now I won't be able to sleep because I'm thinking of particle colliders and Freddy Krueger. Both are equally as haunting. Number 2, no more insects. This one I wish I didn't know. Ignorance is bliss, folks. But we're kind of doomed. No easy way to say it. And so is the bug spray industry, apparently. The world is losing insects, which if you're a little kid or if you're me, sounds like a good thing at first. I don't like bugs. Any bugs. But when scientists tell us that the world has 70% less bugs than it did back in just the 80s, well, that's pretty concerning. Unsettling things scientists don't want us to see. This one they probably don't mind us taking a peek into. But we don't talk about this nearly enough. These buggy dudes are vital for our crops. The movie Interstellar, for example, is about our future and future humans running out of crops. So we should have been listening to Christopher Nolan this entire time. I knew it. Go watch Dark Knight, there's probably some clues in there somewhere. We're too focused on robots gaining the ability to do parkour that we're forgetting the sad science as well. And finally, coming in at number 1, mad cow disease. While we've got our hands full of this COVID madness, let me just add another one there to top you up. I stumbled across this Reddit thread here. It was titled, Scientists of Reddit, what are some scary scientific discoveries that most of the public is unaware of? Yeah, I read through a bunch of them, pretty scary, but I found this gem and had to finish the list off. One reply got lots of feedback, tons of support as well, and there's a great deal of people who just may be carrying around mad cow disease. But we won't know for another decade, give or take. So, sit tight. Stay tuned, I guess. Mad cow disease from the 80s and 90s was due to cows being fed the remains of other animals. Pretty horrible stuff. People then ate their beef and consumed prions, a protein that can destroy the human brain, and it's thought that many people still might carry prions but won't know until they start experiencing the symptoms, which could be 10 to 50 years after consuming said contaminated meat. It has a really long incubation period, and you can also contract the prions from blood transfusions, which is the reason why so many UK citizens from that time period still aren't allowed to donate blood. Fun fact, this is a very real thing. And to answer your question, no, there is no cure, and it can kill you in just a few months. How's that for unsettling? Guys,
starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the 4D world. To start off this list, we have one idea of how other dimensions could theoretically exist in our world. Basically, right now, we as humans can observe our 3-dimensional world, and depending on who you talk to, maybe we already know about the 4th dimension, although we can't see it, as many people believe the 4th dimension is space-time. We know and can physically observe the other 3, which are of course length, width, and height. For anything beyond these 3, we can think and conceptualize what they might be or what they might be like, but we truly have no idea what it would be like to exist inside of these other dimensions. So everything we know is 3D, but that isn't to say that there aren't other dimensions or that they can't exist. In fact, we can neither prove or disprove that they do just because we only exist in 3 dimensions. There are scientists out there who have come to the conclusion, or maybe having a hypothesis is a better way to put it, that if higher dimensions do in fact exist, it is highly likely that it would be nearly impossible for us to come in contact with them. I mean, they would have a completely different way of existing than we do, but just because we can't interact doesn't mean we can't live alongside. I guess long story short, this is just the idea that just because we can't prove it doesn't mean that disproves it, and it's just likely that we'll never know. This idea comes from a study that was conducted in 2015 at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics, which sounds like a place that only the CIA or Autobots are allowed to go. Your brain's gotta be this big to get in. Anyway, this study suggested that life could have spread via panspermia, which is the hypothesis that life exists throughout the universe, distributed by space dust, meteoroids, asteroids, comets, that sort of thing. Moving star to star in clusters, scientists tested 2 possibilities for what might have brought life to Earth: asteroids and intelligent beings. These aren't the only 2 possibilities that exist, it's just the ones that they tested, but here's the thing. The researchers found that they were both possible. And to make matters worse, they would have followed the same pattern. Yeah, so good luck getting any concrete answers, you know what I mean? If correct, this study could mean that there is either life somewhere else in the galaxy, or that some other higher beings or something like that does exist. In our number 8 spot today, we have how? Okay, so this is a point that some people explain may show us that there is some sort of higher power or being or dimension involved in getting us to where we are today. I'm not saying that this is concrete proof, I'm just here regurgitating other people's ideas and theories, and you can take them and do what you want with them, okay? This is a choose your own adventure zone, I'm not telling you how to think. Basically, this is the idea that was based on certain studies which suggest that the universe shouldn't have survived more than a second. As one example, the Big Bang apparently should have created equal parts of matter and antimatter, which would then cancel each other out, but as we're all standing here, literally made up of matter, we know that that's not the case. Instead, slightly more matter was produced, which then turned into the entire observable universe. We can't definitively explain why or how this happened, which of course is exactly why people have to come up with their own theories. At this point, I mean, there has to be a reason why, but your guess is as good or probably better than mine. In our number 7 spot today, we have hyperdimension. Okay, we're not even halfway through this list and we're diving into some string theory. Buckle up, everyone. I am certainly not an expert, so it's gonna be a bumpy ride. So in string theory, there's these little loops of vibrating stringiness. In the theory, these are what are called the fundamental objects of reality, and they manifest themselves as particles like electrons and neutrinos, or the force carriers of nature like photons and gravitons. They do this through their vibrations. So what we see is a little particle, and by see I mean we don't really see because it's so small, but what's even smaller is this vibrating stringiness that vibrates with different modes, similar to a guitar string kind of deal. So like how all strings tuned to A flat sound the same or play the same note, each vibration mode is thought to relate to a different particle. So all A flats are electrons and all E naturals are photons. Hopefully you get what I'm saying. So in string theory, particle collisions are these strings all merging together and then splitting apart. In this world, for the math to, well, math, there has to be more than 4 dimensions in our world. I'm sorry, I don't know enough about math to really fully explain this, but basically our space-time doesn't give the strings enough room or space or whatever you want to call it to do their little vibrating thing in all the ways needed for all the variety of particles in the world. Like, there's too many notes, if that makes sense. So basically this theory is suggesting that particles aren't just wiggling around, they're doing it hyperdimensionally. Right now, based on this theory, theory, some suggest as many as 10 or 11 dimensions might be necessary. In our number 6 spot today, we have logic. Back in the 1940s, Kurt Gödel, who was a physicist, tried to prove the existence of God using math, and he based this on the argument by St. Anselm of Canterbury. I thought the whole religion thing was about having faith, but truth be told, if someone could prove to me that a higher power is real, I'd be fully willing to hear them out. The argument for the saint is as follows. There is a greater being called God, and nothing greater than God can be imagined. God exists as an idea in the mind. With all other things being equal, a being that exists in both the mind and reality is better than a being that only exists in the mind. Therefore, if God only exists in the mind, then it's possible that we can imagine a being more powerful than God. However, that contradicts argument 1 because nothing greater than God can be imagined. Therefore, God exists. I'm definitely not convinced yet, but basically where Kurt comes in is that in using this modal logic in parallel universes, he argued that if an all-powerful being exists in at least one parallel universe, that means they exist. As there are an infinite number of universes with an infinite number of possibilities, one universe has a being so powerful that it would be considered an omnipotent God. Therefore, God exists. In 2013, this idea was challenged by 2 mathematicians who processed the mathematical equation that goes along with this theory on a computer, and it was found to be correct. Here is the flaw though. This doesn't prove that a God exists, it just proves that some sort of all-powerful being could exist according to modal logic. In our number 5 spot today, we have the valley. This is another theory in reference to what we were previously talking about, how some argue that the universe basically just shouldn't exist, and that in some way could lead some people to argue that this means some other dimension or being is responsible for our world. This theory has the world placed in the Higgs field, which is what gives particles their mass. The theory suggests that basically there is a large energy field that is stopping our universe from just like falling into a valley or a deeper field in which the universe wouldn't be able to exist. Okay, that sounds kind of daunting, but also nice and cozy, but based on the standard model of physics, if correct, a rapid expansion of the universe right after the Big Bang probably should have already moved the universe into this valley or deep field, which again would have destroyed it less than a second after it was created. I'm not gonna lie, this is another one that doesn't have me fully convinced, but it is still interesting to say the least. I think I'm just still hung up on trying to figure out what would be around if the universe wasn't. What the heck is the valley? Where is this field? And how could the whole universe fall? I love and hate science so much, it's the most conflicting feeling. In our number 4 spot today, we have the cylinder condition. For this theory of other dimensions, let's take a trip back to 1919, shortly after Albert Einstein. Yeah, remember that guy? Remind me to thank him for literally melting my brain while trying to research for this video. After he published his theory of general relativity, there was a mathematician and physicist named Theodore Kaluza who decided to play around with the equations within the theory just for fun. I guess that's what smart people do for fun. I just play Overcooked or Mario Party with Taylor, but I guess to each their own. So while he's just doing his Sunday crossword puzzle, he found something interesting when he added a 5th dimension to the equation. Nothing happened. The equations within the theory of relativity don't care about the number of dimensions that exist. Then, just to do some equations on master mode, Theodore decided to spice up this 5th dimension he was adding. He made it one that wrapped around itself in what was called a cylinder condition. This ended up creating a new thing that caught Theodore's attention. The equations were the usual equations of general relativity in the first 4 dimensions, but there was also a new equation that replicated the expressions of electromagnetism. This created a hypothesis that perhaps adding dimensions might, in the end, unify physics, which would kind of make sense of a few things that currently don't really. In our number 3 spot today, we have the glitch in the matrix. This is one of those ideas that makes you wonder if we are living in a simulation. Are there some other beings in a higher dimension that are playing around with us like Sims? Because if so, I got some beef with mine. According to theoretical physicist John D. Barrow, we can tell if the universe is a simulation by looking for mistakes or errors in it, and it's important to note that he also believes that even beings in these higher dimensions or an advanced civilization would not have a complete knowledge of our nature's laws. This would lead to mistakes or glitches in the matrix. The notable ones would be changes in physical constants, which are physical properties like the speed of light that are always the same everywhere throughout time. Or has it been? In 2001, there were researchers in Australia who claimed to have found evidence that the speed of light has been slowing down over the last billion years. This does contradict general relativity, and it's not something I'm ignoring, we're just talking about theories here. To further this example, astronomer John Webb discovered that light from a quasi-stellar radio source, or a quasar, which is a highly luminous object in the early universe thought to be powered by supermassive black holes. So he found that light from one had absorbed the wrong type of photons on its 12 billion year journey to Earth. The only way this could happen is if there was a change in the speed of light or in the charge of an electron, both of which are physical constants. There are people who disagree or don't see eye to eye with this theory that these things might just prove we are living in a simulation, but regardless of that, no one is exactly sure why physical constants stay constant, but we do know that they are imperative and critical for our existence, and really for the existence of the entire universe. Some would argue that they're so fixed and important that it just might be evidence of the universe being created specifically for life. In our number 2 spot today, we have cosmic rays. In 2003, philosopher Nick Bostrom suggested that the universe is actually just a computer simulation, which, yeah, clearly we've all heard that before, so what makes this one so special? Well, he put forward the idea that, obviously, if true, this would mean that some higher beings, or being, would have had to build the simulation, but that means that the universe would have to be finite because all computers have limits. This means that maybe the simulation is detectable only if we can find the limits of the universe. To test this idea, German researchers built universe simulators on a lattice in a quantum computer, which fully sounds like a made-up sentence of fake words. During this, they focused on cosmic rays, which are atom fragments that come from outside of our solar system. They chose these because they have a finite or limited and definable amount of power, which leads to them deteriorating over time. They found that all the cosmic rays, when they reached Earth, had a similar amount of energy, a maximum of 10 electron volts. This is curious because it suggests that all the cosmic rays had similar starting points, like perhaps not so different from the edge of a simulation lattice on a quantum computer. Do you see where I'm going with this? What if we're all just one big quantum computer? I guess that would finally explain the cloud. In our number 1 spot today, we have the landscape. Okay, we're almost done talking about string theory for the day. I know I'm gonna take a nap after finishing this one. My brain just needs some peace at this point because I don't even know it's real anymore. Maybe nothing, maybe so much that I don't even know 99% of it exists. Either way, there's a chance that these dimensions we don't see or don't realize are exceptionally small and that they wrap up on themselves. And it's thought that if this were true, that every time we moved ourselves around in our 4-dimensional space, we'd be moving around these extra dimensions billions and billions of times, and these dimensions are where the strings in string theory live. After more smart people did even more math, it was realized that these 6 extra spatial dimensions that we talked about before when we were discussing how the particles or the strings that make them up need more room to vibrate, and in order to do that, they need at least 6 extra dimensions. You know, I was doing a whole guitar thing. So those extra dimensions, they have to be wrapped up in a very specific way, which is known as the Calabi-Yau manifolds. I apologize if I said that wrong. These are named after 2 very prominent physicists, but here's where things get even more chaotic than before. There isn't just one manifold that could exist. There's like 10 to the power of 200,000. As Paul Sutter on space.com put it so perfectly, quote, "It turns out that when you need 6 dimensions to curl up on themselves and give them almost any possible way to do it, it adds up." He also goes on to explain that, quote, "Each possible configuration will affect the ways the strings inside them vibrate. Since the ways that strings vibrate determine how they behave up here in the macroscopic world, each choice of manifold leads to a distinct universe with its own set of physics. So only one manifold can give rise to the world as we experience it. Unfortunately, we don't actually have an answer to that. But the good news is that string theory is always evolving. It isn't something that is finished. It's a theory. We have ways of hopefully trying to get close to the real thing, but we don't really know how right we are. Right now, the best response from string theorists is what is called the landscape. This is a multiverse of all of the possible universes as predicted by the manifolds." I feel like I'm in a really bad episode of Rick and Morty right now.
Starting off this countdown, we have the wildfires in Greece. Greece has been experiencing the worst forest fires the country has seen since 2007. In 2007, they hit record-breaking temperatures and experienced a terrible drought, which caused a number of fires to break out. As a result, 270,000 hectares of land was destroyed. And now it's happening all over again. Since early August of 2021, a number of wildfires have been threatening Greece. Thousands of people have evacuated. Dozens of homes have been destroyed, and thousands of miles of nature and wildlife have been destroyed. It's very devastating, and a part of why this is happening is climate change. We are experiencing hotter and drier weather conditions, which fires thrive in. This is very concerning to scientists. In our 9th spot, we have the hut on the moon. Just recently, China's Yutu-2 rover, which landed on the far side of the moon in 2019, has spotted a weird object lurking on the moon. On the horizon of the moon, it spotted a cube-shaped object that looks like a hut. So it was given the name the Mystery Hut. Images of this mystery hut have been uploaded online, and people believe that this is an alien-created structure. Even satellite images from above have picked up this hut as well. For now, the rover is headed closer to the hut to get a better look at it. But the rover isn't the fastest thing out there, so it's gonna take a couple of months to get there. That means for months, we'll be wondering what the heck this structure is. Moving on to number 8, we have the toxic foam. You see all that white stuff floating in the water beside the people? No, this photo wasn't taken in a very cold country, and no, that is not ice or snow in the water. That is a highly polluted river in Delhi. It's so polluted that it's covered in a snow-like toxic foam. This was a result of illegal dumping of industrial waste and untreated sewage water. For years, the government has promised to clean the river, but they never have followed through with this promise. It's actually very dangerous to humans. That foam is very toxic. Again, this is a huge concern to scientists. It shows the destructive habits of humans, and we are now suffering the consequences. Moving on to number 7, we have the river filled with waste. Pollution is one of the biggest global killers. It's affecting over 100 million people. On top of that, over 1 million seabirds and 100,000 sea mammals are killed by pollution every year. Take a look at this next photo to understand the severity of this problem. This is the Lim River in Serbia. In January of 2021, heavy rain caused their waste systems to fail, and as a result, Serbia's rivers were flooded with waste. To clean all that up could take months, even years. And think of all the sea mammals affected by that waste. It's very depressing looking at this photo. Coming in at number 6, we have the body's location. Okay, let's take a break from all the depressing pollution and climate change talk and move on to something pretty eerie. Someone on Facebook posted that they found this on the underside of their desk. It reads, "The truth is under." This was written inside of one of the desk drawers. When you look under that desk drawer, it says, "The body lies at," and then it lists location coordinates. If you look up the coordinates, some sort of target range pops up from the satellite view. Now, someone actually emailed the county sheriff's office and they said their criminal investigations unit was working on it. He also warned people not to go out to the spot by themselves or at all. Apparently, a couple of years ago, there was this 4chan thread where a guy said that a prize was at a certain location and someone went out there and they were never seen again. So yeah. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the surfer. Here's another photo that sadly captures the world's pollution problem. This photo features surfer Didi Surinya catching a wave in Java, Indonesia. You can see instead of the water being crystal blue, it's filled with litter. Now, this place is said to be the world's most populated island. Not only that, but scientists have said that Indonesia has among the worst water quality in Asia. This is due to the fact that many cities don't have proper trash collection, so the waste ends up on the street or in the water, or it's on the street and then it gets blown into the water. Coming in at number 4, we have the flooding. A number of major cities are sinking due to sea levels rising and climate change. In a couple of years, these cities will be uninhabitable and largely underwater. Take Jakarta, Indonesia, for example. Jakarta is said to be the world's fastest sinking city. North Jakarta has sunk 2.5 meters in 10 years and is now sinking 25 centimeters a year in some parts. Research shows that by 2050, 95% of North Jakarta will be submerged underwater. In fact, currently almost half the city is now below sea level. Many buildings are already being flooded. They have tried to repair these buildings from the floods, but they just keep getting damaged from the floods. Now, the Indonesian government actually has a plan in place to move the capital to Java to protect the 10 million residents, but this move would take 10 years and cost $33 billion. But it's not just Jakarta at risk. Major places like New York, Florida, Fiji, New Orleans are also at risk as well. Coming in at number 3, we have the Yellow River in Mongolia. This river is so populated that it's almost impossible to breathe near it. It's also extremely hazardous to swim in or to drink. But here's the thing. It used to supply water to millions of people in the north of China, until recent years when it got polluted with factory discharge and sewage. 1/3 of China's Yellow River is now poisonous to drink. Only 16% of the water is safe. If things keep going this way, soon the entire water supply will be unsafe. In our second spot, we have the Amazon rainforest. Over the past 30 years, 15% of the Brazilian Amazon has been destroyed. This is very problematic because this forest alone supplies 20% of the world's oxygen. And nowadays, more and more parts of the rainforest are being burnt down or chopped down. The main cause of deforestation in the Amazon is the need for more farmland. A couple of years ago, cattle ranchers set the Amazon on fire to illegally clear land and then expand their business. Cattle ranching has caused 80% of the deforestation of the Amazon. However, because of climate change, the Amazon is getting drier. So when they burn down the land, it spreads uncontrollably. In 2019, almost 1 million hectares burnt down. And in our number one spot today, we have the Kenyan drought. Now, this is a very upsetting photo, but it showcases the reality of global warming and climate change. In December of 2021, a prolonged drought in northeast of Kenya caused the death of a number of animals and livestock. This is a photo of 6 giraffes who sadly passed away due to this destructive drought. The area only received 1/3 of normal rainfall since September. This photo really gets to me. Like, look how destructive humans are. Our actions are killing our home, this planet, and animals are suffering as a result.